Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dragon's Library, and today we are talking about Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. I should have planned something else for today. I decided, hey, it's on Disney Plus, you know? It's easy to go see. I don't have to go and go to a theater to watch it like the Bob's Burger movie. I can just watch it at home after I'm finished with Magic on Wednesday and review it on Thursday. No biggie. And I'll just rewatch and skim through it to get my stuff bearings for the review. And, you know, I've got a few notes down and, oh god, this was just... It was frustrating, because on one level I kind of enjoyed it, on the other level I hated it. So, first off, I'm going to try and be positive about this. Let's go with the synopsis first, for those of you who don't know. Now, for a little background before I get into that, this is a pseudo... I'm not even sure what you'd call this, like a reboot spin-off of Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, which was a Disney TV show in like the 90s that I never saw. I've just never seen Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, never been interested in it, and I've never seen it. I watch a lot of old stuff, a lot of good animation stuff. I've heard good things, haven't seen it. So, this is essentially a Who Framed Roger Rabbit. If you don't understand what that means, it means they're real people and cartoon people, and they live in the same world, and all the cartoon movies are just those cartoon actors playing in cartoon movies. Okay? Okay. So, it's basically a world like that where they broke up after the show got canceled due to Dale being an asshole, or was it Chip or Dale? I forget. So, Dale got the show broken up, and Chip is sort of bitter about it, but he's moved on with his life. Then they get a call from one of their old castmen people, Monty, who called them because he's gotten over in deep. He bought the cheese is essentially cheese for drugs. Metaphor for the cartoon mouse, and he's gonna get bootleg, which is basically where they modify you using advanced animation stuff, and they ship you off to a foreign country to star in bootleg Chinese movies. You know, those rip-off movies that are popular in countries where they don't respect copyright law, that kind of thing. And so they have to figure out what's going on after he gets kidnapped, because they, you know, get in an argument, leave, and then he gets kidnapped. And it's basically a Who Didn't Frame Roger Rabbit mystery with two police, the police chief, one of the police officers who wants to help them out, and them going up against like a pseudo animation mob kind of thing. All in all, it's an okay plot. It almost says something at times, and God, it's so hard to be positive about this. Okay, I'm going to get into the positive stuff. First up, I usually don't start here, but the animation. It actually looks pretty good. This is a very interesting thing, because I really do enjoy when I see like a lot of different animation styles combined together. Some of my favorite episodes of things like Gravity Falls, or when they would add in things like stop motion or pixel art into the main animation style. It's always cool seeing these clashing, conflicting styles depicting things from other worlds. And it is genuinely nice to see. I like it. I think it is a good look overall. It has this very vibrant world where you have like old style animation, you have CG, you have early CG. Yikes. And everyone talks about how they live in the Uncanny Valley, which is sort of like bad Silicon Valley. Isn't Silicon Valley terrible? Yeah. Not sure. So, anyway. The way it works is they have just a lot of animation styles. Dale got the CGI look, which is that weird synthetic fur thing they keep putting on stuff, which I've always thought, it looks fine. It's not as good. I think Chip looks way better, honestly. For all like the old style 2D anime characters, they have this cool rotoscope look to them that I'm nearly positive this is rotoscoping. It has to be rotoscoping. And it looks fantastic. I'm just gonna say it. I love the look of the 2D anime characters in the real world. Honestly, I wish they had not made Dale a CG. I know they're trying to make a sort of point about that, but they don't actually make it a point about it. So like, who cares? You know? In general, I can't be bothered to care. This plot is just so... it's average plot, and it's so smug about itself. Like, I don't think I've ever experienced that feeling of wanting to punch a movie before, but I have here. And it's because Disney is just like, yeah, weren't we terrible? Now let's serve you some of that same stuff. And, like, I try not to bring this in here but there's just not much else to do with this. It's a very meta movie, and as a result, you have to look at what it's saying and how what it's saying is affected by who's saying it. And the problem with that, Disney, is this is not something you're going to come out ahead on. Because when you try and make a movie criticizing the launch of CGI ripoffs or bad ripoff movies of beloved classic 2D animated stuff, you don't look good in that story. You do not look good. You're not if we had to pick someone to be the bad guy here, it's kind of you. Like, don't get me wrong, and the villain who's, like, turning animation characters into ripoff characters, yeah, he's a bad character, like, he's the villain. But the whole time I couldn't look at the way it's saying, it's like, yeah, we don't do that to our characters, but the CG look, yeah, it's a choice. And I'm like, no, but it's a dumb choice. And they have this whole moment where, this is the moment that stood out to me the most. So there's this dwarf character who's from, like, the early 2000s days, like the Uncanny Valley character, and his whole thing is his eyes are creepy and dead and they don't move, so he just stares forward, and even when he's looking at someone, they're just staring into the middle distance. And he falls down in this convention. You see, like, a bunch of characters, like the Mantis from Poe, who doesn't look anywhere near as good as in DreamWorks stuff. I don't know how Disney got the rights to that, honestly. And the new CGI version of Pumbaa staring at him, and they're like, dude, your dead eyes are super creepy. It's like, Pumbaa, you don't have any shit. You don't talk shit about him. Your eyes look creepy and dead, too. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, it's like they're saying, look at how far we've come. Our new CG is so good. And I'm like, it looks atrocious. Why did you do that to The Lion King? You're not making me feel like you're on your side here. Although it does sort of have a point, and I'm being a bit harsh on this movie. So, the animation on a whole looks good. I hate whenever they bring the new live-action style CG stuff into there, because it brings frustration to me, because I'm like, a lot of these movies, I'm like, what's the fucking point here? But that aside, it all looks technically impressive. And like I said, I really like rotoscoping. I think it's a really cool style of animation. And they have a lot of clearly rotoscope stuff in here, and I was very impressed by it. No, I'm not joking. There's only like one scene I think could have used a little more work, and that's the scene where the mob boss, I'm not spoiling that twist on that, even though it's really early, because I'm about to talk about that mob boss later, and I want to kind of talk about that separately, is wearing like this robe, like bathrobe, and it looks really fake on him, but like, aside from that, the rotoscoped animation looks really good. And they even have like the police chief is like a claymation, stop motion animation clay figure, and the fight scene with him is really cool, the way they use his Play-Doh body, essentially. There are some incredibly interesting animation techniques on display here. This is basically, if you just want to look at like every animation technique put to screen all at once, this is kind of your place. It is sort of a feast for the eyes, which makes it so annoying that the plot just cannot hold my attention. And there are long stretches where you're only with Chip and Dale and a bunch of humans, and it's like, really? And the human character, I just could not give a shit about her. Sorry. They're like, oh, I was a fan, and like, there's this whole subplot, I'm just like, no, I don't care. Like, I'm barely here for these two. I'm not here for you either. But, there is one other theme, aside from the whole weird stance on bootlegs and reboots thing they're talking about, because they're trying to take potshots at China at the moment, I think. There's one other thing, and it's the treatment of child actors, which I was not expecting. But, okay, so, context. The main villain, the mob boss who's, doing all this extorting, and then they don't pay up, he ships the cartoons over to make bootleg movies, is Peter Pan. But not like young Peter Pan. You've seen the trailers if you've heard about this movie. It's like the older, fat Peter Pan. And what's interesting is, basically he said, after my movie, Hollywood didn't want anything to do with me. I got older and suddenly I was just a joke. I tried to make it on my own for a while, but eventually I found that I could make a lot more money doing some illegal stuff. And believe it or not, This actually parallels the voice actor's life. Yeah, I know. Okay, so this is not a well-known fact, believe it or not. It's really just not. It's very low to the ground thing. Like, if you know a lot about animation, you might know this, but the voice actor for Peter Pan basically was a sort of one-hit wonder. He worked for that movie and did a few, like, plays and stages, and was sort of like one of like the most beloved voice actors for a long time, because Peter Pan was a huge movie back in the day. Like, yeah, I don't think you can understood. It's one of Disney's early classics, so for a time, it was like their big movie. But afterwards, he struggled to find other work, and his parents tried to move him out of acting and bring him to a public school, but he got bullied a lot, so they sent him back to the child actor school for a while, even though he wasn't getting gigs, just so he could finish his education without his grades and social life suffering. But he never regained his old status as sort of like an up-and-coming actor, a voice actor, and so he ended up turning to drugs, and warning, this is going to get a bit more graphic, tune out for like 15 seconds if you don't want to hear this. He was found dead in an abandoned apartment building. So yeah, the idea of Peter Pan being destroyed because he got old and nobody wanted him anymore, it's not actually a bad plot. Like, that part is interesting, and the historical context actually adds something to it. It's just, I can't really care. Like, it... And the thing is, Disney was... I don't really know how to feel about it, because it's like, okay, so you're gonna say more about that. Like, maybe like talk about how it was his own ego, or there were complicating circumstances, or you're just gonna say that sometimes child actors get thrown away and they turn to a life of crime. Like, they didn't really have anything to say after the fact, you know? There wasn't an overarching message like, this was bad. It's like, okay, so, conclusion statement. What was your point? They didn't really have one. And that's disappointing, because I think there is a story there. I think there's themes you could explore that could very much make this movie a better movie overall. But instead, it just kind of turns into a classic mob boss. It's like, oh, that's just my backstory. Yeah, that's just how I got here. It's like, okay. And it almost ties in with the whole Chip and Dale's career falling through, and Dale becoming like this running, returning guest star, like, conventions, who's constantly trying to get his fan base up in arms again for a reboot. And Chip has moved on with his life, is now an accountant, even though he still clearly has regrets about it. And it's like, I feel like there are pieces here that are good. Like I said, the animation production values are good. The thing about Peter Pan, using him as a parallel for child actors, tying that into reboots and reinterpretations of work and the changing of 2D to CGI. I think there's something there. I just think, Disney is way too self-satisfied for a company that, like, by this movie's plot is sort of part of the problem, and B, they just didn't do anything with it. They have nuggets of ideas, themes, and cool questions, but they don't really do anything with it. The movie just kind of ends with the main villain getting, like, rewritten into this abomination made of, like, half CGI, half live action, half whatever the hell. An abomination of like 1,000 different animation pieces. It basically just turns into like ooh, I get that reference. And I'm like, that's fine, but like, it's not anything special. If I wanted to see ooh, look at that reference, I'd watch Ready Player One, or, and if I wanted to watch a good movie that's a lot of those references, I'd just watch Free Guy, because that was amazing. I just don't think this movie has a place. Like, there are better versions of basically everything this movie does, and it doesn't really have a point unlike all those better versions. So, like, if somebody wanted to see something like this, I'd be like, sure, watch certain clips from it so you can see all the cool animation effects and maybe that one clay fight scene, but you can see that on YouTube, or you can just skip through it on Disney+. There's no reason to watch the whole movie. There's not a reason to watch it. I just don't think it has a reason to exist. And in the end, that's pretty damning. Now, before I get into the rating, I'd like to explain for new viewers or for anyone who hasn't seen the episodes where I've talked about this before, I have certain rules of my rating systems. My rating guidelines are supposed to be based around how much you should go see it, and then a 10 or below 4 are, I really, really hate this, do not go here, or 10 is yes, 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 yes. And with 4, in order for it to get a 4 or a lower, in order for it to get below a 4, it has to get technically, like, not just subjectively bad, objectively bad. It has to have, like, horrible special effects that are easy to see through, like really atrocious, hurt your eyes. It has to have an unworkable script. It has to have actors who just not give a shit. I have very few movies below 4. The only movie I've ever rated, I would ever probably rate a 0 that I have personally seen and subjected myself to was Fan4stick, that Fantastic Four reboot that even Stan Lee didn't want a cameo in. That thing was atrocious on every freaking level. The effects were unfinished, the actors weren't there, the script was terrible, it butchered the source material, like, it was an objectively terrible. That was just a 0 for me. But this is technically competent. The script is basic, but it's very much sort of a kid's movie, although it's a bit darker than I'd expect for a kid's movie. Not dark enough to give it a PG-13 rating, just like slightly darker than you'd expect your average PG movie to be. And it raises enough decent points, even if it doesn't do anything with those points, that I'm willing to give this a 5.5. I thought about giving it a 6, but 6 felt like too much of a recommendation. I do not recommend you go see this movie. At all. If you are interested in the animation effects, I'd recommend you go look up some clips of it on YouTube. Don't give Disney Plus any footage for this. We need to nip this bullshit in the bud right now. Because, and, like, to be honest, from what I've seen of the original series, it was a very lighthearted, like, go on adventures, villain of the week style thing, like, sort of like DuckTales, and this just doesn't really feel like that. And it, like, clearly is referencing the old show a lot, but it's just, like, it feels so totally different that I don't think even the people who want to see this for, like, a Rescue Rangers reboot really should care. So, yeah. My final rating is a 5.5 out of 10. Don't go see this. There are better things out there. Go see Everything Everywhere All the Time. That's just going to start streaming. I think it just came out on streaming. Go watch the new Stranger Things season. Hell, I'd recommend Krakow Monsters over this. Krakow Monsters was a shitty show, but at least it was trying to be interesting and original to a certain extent. And there's some actually impressive parts of it beyond just animation. In fact, it's almost a diametric opposite of this. That thing actually has a worse script, I'd say, but it's more interesting on a technical level and clearly is the creative vision of someone who had an idea and really, really wanted to talk about it. Especially like Polish and Slavic mythology. So, yeah, go see Krakow Monsters over this. Like, if you have kids, there are better things. Hell, go watch Amphibia. It's all on Disney Plus now. That'll occupy your kids way longer than Chip and Dale. Or hell, go see Owl House. I'm going to be reviewing that, the season 2 finale soon for that. So, stay in tune for that all. Do not go see this. Okay? So, that's it. Moving on to spoiler section. Warning, there are spoilers, but really you shouldn't care, so why are you here? Let's go, everybody. Let's bitch about this. Okay. I'm joking. I actually do have some more positive things to say about this, because I'm not recommending anymore. Like I said, the animation is all around really good. I loved Peter Pan. I loved like the weird, creepy CGI characters. The fact they were intentionally going for the off-putting somehow makes it come out more impressive, oddly enough. Seeing animators work with the models back then, like, it's weird, but it's almost like the fact that they're working with these shitty models doesn't distract from the fact that it's still better animation than what you would have gotten back then. Their movements seem a bit smoother, if that makes sense. But they do very much capture that early 2000s shitty animation vibe. And I gotta give it to them. The people who animate this, congratulations. Fantastic work all around. The animation is good. I love it. Like I said, I've always gone for that Who Framed Roger Rabbit, different animation styles in live action all melding together. I think that's cool. But, the rest of this is just, okay, let's get into it. So Monty was fun, but he was gone for basically the entire movie. They had this whole thing where they called in the old crew to save them at the very end, and I was like, well, I don't care about these characters, so this is just, like, kind of boring. Okay, whatevs. Alright, yep. Sorry. But, all in all, not bad. Not bad, per se. I did like this. I laughed, like, 2 times, okay? The first laugh was for, oh God, what was it? It was the whole thing. Oh yeah, it was with the Play-Doh guy. He had like one of his officers, like a little cartoon bird, and he's like, "Hey, I don't have anything on my back." It feels like I have something there. It's like, yeah, you have a Monopoly piece and one of our officers. Like, oh, God damn it! Can I like a single day without somebody ruining my shirt? It's like, you know what? I like that. They really kind of sell just how weird this world is, where you have animated characters living alongside CGI characters, living alongside weird CGI characters, living alongside stop motion creatures, living alongside full-size humans. The world feels very built for this too. Like, you have a lot of things with like, you know, appropriately sized housing. You have like smaller desks, or you have even like modifications. Like, Dale drives a human-sized car, but it has all these chip modifications. So it has a extended steering wheel that can control it for his little hands, and a rise seat that folds out into like a full seat. And it's actually like this whole thing of like, yeah, so why are you driving it? You do realize there are chipmunk-sized cars. Like, but human stuff is the best. And it's like this falling apart used car. They probably had to pay most of the money for the modifications. It's like, all in all, just little background details. Like, it's weird. I kind of hate the story, but the world it brings up is this very vibrant, alive world that really owes a lot to the animators. Like, I keep singing their praises, but it looks good. Like, I don't know what else to say. As for everything else, it's just this kind of, like, the whole Uncanny Valley, Silicon Valley reference feels, I don't know, kind of cheap. They also have Ugly Sonic. You know that original trailer where they had Sonic with the human teeth? And now, like, it's all Ugly Sonic. It's like, yeah, I saw one trailer and they recast me, months before and did the whole thing over. Like, huh, interesting. You're kind of glossing over the fact that people had to, like, nearly die going through crunch time to make new Sonic. I feel like you're kind of devaluing that, but okay, let's not just say kind of makeover. Like, I feel like they could have just, like, why didn't they tie this into the whole body modification thing? Like, why make a cheap joke out of Ugly Sonic? It seems weird. Like, because you could have actually had that. It's like, Sonic had to, they were about to drop me, but I paid a ton of money for this reconstructive surgery. And I went through this guy, Sweet Pea. He can do it on the down low, That would be interesting to me. I think it would be cool. What do you do about video game characters? Like, there's a story to be told with Sonic. I would have loved to see, like, a version of Sonic in this world. The reconstructive surgery. I went from video game to movies. I'm going to the big leagues now. Oh, maybe just something with the dichotomy between video game characters being adapted to movies and the lack of freedom compared to the, player choice versus script and all that. I think there's some interesting stuff to be do there, but, like, it's probably already done in Free Guy, so, Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that would have been a more interesting movie now that I'm talking about. It's like, why did they bring Sonic into this? Oh, wait, that would actually be better if they just focused on him. Probably not. It's atrocious. I'm also wondering, how much money did Disney pay for this movie? Because, alright, this movie is cameo central. They have people from DreamWorks. They have people from, obviously they own Fox now, so they can get many of those they want. But they have just, so many people from all over. They had, Cheetah. Yeah, Cheetah. They paid Cartoon Network money and Nickelodeon. It's all these different people. And I'm like, Disney, how many checks did you have to write for all these cameos? How many? And they got some of the voice actors back for this, I remind you, with Mantis. I actually almost want to look this up and see how many of these old characters were voiced by their old voice actors. I'm almost curious enough to look that up. Not actually curious enough to look it up, but almost. All in all, it feels like a disappointment because I feel like there is genuine potential buried in this movie. Like, you have little moments where things almost seem to work out. The second time I laughed actually was a pretty funny one. There's this recurring joke where apparently in one of the episodes, in order to distract a cat guard or whatever, they bonked Chip bonked Dale on the head and had the whole thing with the animated birds fly around because he's dizzy. And the birds are visible because it's an animated show, so it distracted the guard. And so when they're being chased by him, he has the Peter Pan got a cat head from the reconstructive surgery laser gone horribly wrong. And what he did was he bonked Dale on the head, and then nothing happened. He's like, why didn't it work? Try it again! And he bonked, and then you just cut to the bird asleep with his wife in his bed, and he gets a phone call, and she's like, honey, are you really going to do this? It's my job, okay? We've talked about this. Can you just not tonight? And I was just like, okay, I kind of like that. So they had to bonk them on the head again before they'd all show up. That was actually funny and kind of creative. A little derivative of other things that exist, yes, but I enjoyed it. But aside from those 2 times I've mentioned, that's all I really did to laugh. And I just feel, I don't know, why did this get a reboot? Why? Like, is this even a reboot? What is this? Like, we've started entering this weird world recently where I'm not really sure what's particularly is a reboot. Like, we have that requel thing going on right now, which for those of you who don't know, is basically a reboot / remake where it's unclear / ambiguous if the original version took place as intended, or if it was just the first movie and the sequels that everybody hated didn't count. In addition, they usually bring back the old cast as older versions of themselves. Now, I would actually argue that the new Star Wars movie, Rise of Skywalker, is not a requel because it acknowledges all the canon of the old movies, even if it tries to evoke them. Whereas something like Jurassic Park, on the other hand, I actually like Jurassic World, by the way, the new Jurassic World looks like very much like a requel, where it's just like, oh yeah, all the old characters coming back. And it's very unclear if anything other than the first movie happened. And it's like, yep, you're a requel. You're the 3rd movie in a series and you suddenly become a requel. It's like, it's frustrating. I guess they kind of became a requel with, like, in the second one with the, what's his name? Jeff Goldblum came back as Dr. Ian Malcolm. But, like, that was at least, like, an in-movie cameo. But now it's like, they're all, oh my god, this movie made me even more dread the Jurassic World what's the sequel to Fallen Kingdom? Dominion? Really? Jurassic World Dominion? God, that title is horrible. Oh god, this thing just made me so sick of remakes, and now I was like, I'm going to see Jurassic World Dominion next week. Oh shit, this is not the time. Like, I've already been dreading that movie because it looks like all the worst film practices of our era combined into one movie, and Jurassic Park sequels have never been good. Now, believe it or not, I actually defend Jurassic World. I think the original Jurassic World was a good movie. I think Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was a delay for the interesting plot they set up. Like, they were like, all the dinosaurs have been unleashed, and now our world must cope in a place where man and man-eating beasts must live in harmony. And it's like, okay, that's an interesting step. And then the dinosaurs don't get unleashed till the end of the movie, so it's like, so all your trailers were essentially trailers for the next movie, and you sold us to see the prequel for the movie you were actually selling us. What the hell? But I was actually excited for Dominion at first, before I saw the trailer. And the moment I saw they're bringing all the old cast back, and it's like just, I don't know, it's just like sickening. And the thing is, I can almost get behind the plot. Like the whole thing of like Blue's kids have gotten stolen, and so they're gonna go try to save them because they're dinosaur poachers now. It's like, you know what, I'm almost on board with that. But then you brought the old cast back for seemingly no reason. I'm just like, no, why? Why are you doing this? Because requels make money. Because that's why. This freaking the new Ghostbusters movie did that too. I'm not talking about Ghostbusters 2016. I'm talking about the one from 2021. I actually kind of liked Ghostbusters 2016. You know, I don't really have a strong opinion on either way. I don't think it was a bad movie. I don't think it was a good movie. I think it was just a decent movie. Like, average. Okay. Then again, I don't have a strong attachment to Ghostbusters, so I don't really care about the canon or whatever. I mean, it was a comedy movie, so I'm not really sure if people care about the canon, but people have strong opinions on Ghostbusters. Woo! So, yeah. My Ghostbusters review is out there, though, if you want to, see that for that new Ghostbusters Afterlife movie. It's somewhere on my page. I'm so tired right now. This movie made me tired. I'm not even gonna lie. So, yeah. Don't really have much to say on this. I've kind of repeated some of the same points over and over again, and I'm running out of things to say, so that seems like a good time to wrap up. I will see you guys next week, where we will be talking about the Owl House. Yay! And Jurassic World Dominion. Boo. In addition, if you guys weren't aware, I am currently streaming on both YouTube and Twitch, at the Dragons Arcade on Twitch. Links are all in the description, both on my podcast sites, various sites, and also on YouTube. So, wherever you're watching or listening to this, you can check that out. Currently, as of the 2nd of June, I'm currently playing through Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song, which is part of the whole Vampire World of Darkness based on tabletop role-playing games. They made a really cool RPG back in the day, and this new game is actually really interesting. I have some problems with it, but I am enjoying the ride so far, and it's actually made Choices Matter adventure games kind of cool for a little bit. So I will be talking about that when I review it once I finish. So yeah, look forward to that in the future. A video game review, Davis. You haven't done one of those in forever. I just did the Cruel King and the Great Hero. Give me some time. See you guys next time. This has been The Dragon's Library. Bye! I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to The Dragon's Library. Please subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.